There is something deeply disturbing that happens after you have been wounded by a narcissist. It is an experience that very few people speak about openly. Yet, it is a truth that, once fully understood, can completely change the way you view everything you went through. Um, while you lay awake night after night, replaying every conversation, every uncomfortable silence, and every painful confrontation, asking yourself what you did wrong, why you were never enough, or how someone who claimed to love you could treat you with such coldness, the narcissist was going through an internal process of their own. But it was nothing like you probably imagined. In fact, it was never what you believed it to be. The moment you truly understand what was taking place inside them, you will never again question your own value. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear may be one of the most important truths you will ever learn about narcissistic abuse. If you remain until the end, you will leave with a level of clarity that has likely been absent from your life for far too long. You will feel lighter, freer, and more connected to the person you were always meant to be. If these words reflect your own experience and you are committed to healing and rediscovering yourself, consider subscribing to this channel and becoming part of our community. Every week, we create this space to help people like you reclaim their confidence, rebuild their lives step by step, and become stronger than they ever believed possible. You deserve to hear voices that remind you of your true worth. So subscribe and stay with us. Now, let us explore what narcissists truly experience after causing someone pain. Most people automatically believe one of two possibilities. They assume the narcissist secretly feels guilty but refuses to admit it, or they believe the narcissist feels absolutely nothing. The reality, however, is much more complicated. Once you understand it, many of the questions that have haunted you will finally begin to make sense. It explains every sleepless night, every wave of overwhelming self doubt, and every painful moment when you wondered whether they ever genuinely loved you. Here is the first thing you need to know. When a narcissist hurts someone, there is often a brief and almost undetectable moment of awareness buried deep within them. For an instant, they recognize that they have caused real harm. Yet that moment does not develop into sincere guilt. It does not become authentic remorse or a genuine desire to repair the damage. Instead, it immediately transforms into something entirely different. It becomes an intense and desperate drive to protect themselves from what that realization represents. For a narcissist, admitting they have inflicted real emotional pain would require accepting that they are imperfect, capable of cruelty, and far from the flawless superior image their ego has spent years creating. That is a reality they simply cannot tolerate. So they respond the only way they know how. They suppress that awareness, twist the facts, project responsibility onto others, and completely rewrite the story of what occurred. So, what most people never recognize is that the narcissist is not only burying what they did to you, they are also burying how they truly feel about themselves. That hidden shame, that deeply repressed emptiness, and that unresolved darkness never simply vanish. They continue to grow beneath the surface, and it is that unresolved inner turmoil that drives them to repeat the same harmful behaviors over and over again. They do not hurt others because they are genuinely powerful. They hurt others because they are deeply afraid. Their actions are not rooted in true confidence, but in overwhelming insecurity. Beneath every carefully crafted mask, every deception they tell, and every act of emotional cruelty lies a frightened, empty, and emotionally fractured individual who has never truly felt safe enough to confront their authentic self. Take a moment to let that reality settle in. The person who made you feel insignificant, who manipulated your perception until you questioned your own sanity, and who convinced you that you would never be enough, is actually fleeing from themselves every single day. They continue running because stopping would force them to face the one reality they fear above everything else, who they really are once the mask is removed. Now, think back to some of the most painful moments you experienced with the narcissist in your life. Perhaps it was a cruel remark delivered with an icy smile. Maybe it was the calculated silence they used to isolate and punish you. It may have been the relentless gaslighting that slowly reshaped your reality until you doubted your own memories. Or perhaps it was those moments when they looked directly into your eyes and said something so painfully specific, so carefully targeted at your deepest insecurities that it left you completely shattered. During those moments, you probably wondered how someone who claimed to love you could know exactly where to hurt you the most. The truth is even more revealing than you may realize. A narcissist pays close attention to you. They do not observe you because they genuinely care, no matter what they may say. They observe because they are constantly collecting information. They learn what matters most to you. They discover your fears. They identify your emotional, and they store every piece of that knowledge not as an expression of love, but as a method of maintaining control. Your deepest vulnerabilities become weapons they keep ready for the right moment. Your honesty, openness, and trust become tools they can use against you. Whenever they feel threatened, whenever their ego is challenged, or whenever their carefully constructed image begins to crack, they reach for those vulnerabilities and use them against you. They are not acting from a position of strength. They are acting out of fear and desperation, trying to shift your attention away from their own flaws by forcing you to focus on your pain instead. This is the realization that changes everything. They did not hurt you because you were weak. They hurt you because you came close enough to recognize the truth about who they really were, and that was the one reality they could never allow anyone to see. Think about that for a moment. You were not abused because something was wrong with you. You became a target because you were genuine. You were chosen because you felt deeply, loved sincerely, and lived with an authenticity that threatened the carefully crafted illusion they depended on. The narcissist did not focus on you because you lacked value. They focused on you because you possess something meaningful, something real in a life built almost entirely on appearances and falsehoods. Now, here's a truth that very few people ever get the chance to hear. After the narcissist hurts you, after the argument, the betrayal, the silent treatment, the emotional outburst, or the manipulation, they experience something they will never openly admit. They feel a deep and persistent sense of inner uneasiness. It is not guilt as you understand guilt. It is not the heartfelt awareness that comes from knowing you have deeply hurt someone you love. Instead, it is a nagging inner discomfort that comes from realizing, somewhere beneath the surface, that they have behaved in ways they cannot honestly defend. Yet, this is what makes narcissists so emotionally destructive. Rather than sitting with that discomfort, reflecting on it, or allowing it to inspire personal growth, they do what they have spent a lifetime mastering. They push those feelings outward. They search for someone else to carry the blame. More often than not, that person becomes you. This is exactly where gaslighting becomes one of their most effective weapons. If they can persuade you that you caused the conflict, that you push them too far, or that you are overly sensitive, too emotional, too demanding, or simply impossible to please, then they never have to confront the truth of their own behavior. They avoid facing their inner discomfort by placing it onto your shoulders. Suddenly, you become the one carrying the emotional burden of everything they have done. You become the one lying awake at night questioning yourself. You become the one apologizing. You become the one desperately trying to repair damage that you never created. If this sounds painfully familiar, I want you to hear these words clearly. You did not destroy the relationship. You were never the problem. You represented the kind of genuine connection they were incapable of accepting because embracing real love requires vulnerability. Vulnerability is the one thing a narcissist cannot truly offer or comfortably receive. But the deepest part of this truth goes even further. What narcissists secretly experience after hurting you is not limited to unease alone. It is also envy, a quiet, relentless, and deeply buried envy of your natural ability to experience genuine emotion. They envy your capacity to feel pain because the ability to be d- hurt also means you were willing to open your heart to love. They envy your resilience because every time you stood back up, every time you chose hope again, and every time you offered another opportunity for healing, they witnessed a strength they have never truly possessed and do not know how to create within themselves. They saw emotional bravery. They saw someone willing to remain authentic in a world that often punishes people who care deeply. And they resented you because your authenticity constantly reflected everything they were unable to become. If you are walking the path of healing today, and these words are reaching you at a time when you are still trying to understand everything you endured, take a moment to share this message with someone else who may need it. Leave a comment below and let us know where you are on your healing journey. You are not facing this alone. There are countless people listening right now who understand your experience, and recognize the weight of the pain you have carried. Together, we heal. Together, we grow stronger. Now, let us look at what happens after they have hurt you. Once the conflict ends and the emotional damage has been done, this is often when the narcissist's behavior becomes the most revealing. Many people expect some kind of awakening, a moment when the narcissist finally understands the pain they caused, feels genuine remorse, and sincerely decides to change. At times, you may even believe you are seeing signs of that transformation. You may receive an apology that sounds heartfelt. You may experience a brief moment of warmth that reminds you of the person you first believed they were. You may hear promises that everything will be different from now on. But here is what you need to understand about those moments. They are not necessarily lies in the ordinary sense of the word. The narcissist is not always sitting somewhere carefully planning how to manipulate you. In that particular moment, they may genuinely believe every word they are saying. They may genuinely experience a form of regret, but it is not regret for the suffering they caused you. It is regret over losing their sense of control. When they notice you pulling away, when they see your spirit beginning to recover, or when they realize their emotional hold over you is weakening, they experience panic. That panic can easily resemble regret. It can look like love. It can even appear as though they have finally recognized the truth. But beneath the surface, it is simply the desperate reaction of someone who feels their source of stability slipping away. They do not truly want you to be happy. They want you to remain emotionally available to them. They do not genuinely want you to heal. They want you to remain predictable. Once you begin to understand this, the influence they once had over you starts to fade. You stop seeking their approval because you finally recognize that the person you depended on for validation was never capable of offering it. You stop asking why they could not love you because you realize they were consumed with protecting their own fragile and empty sense of identity, leaving no room for authentic. This is the point where your healing truly begins. The moment you stop viewing their behavior as a reflection of your value, you reclaim the strength that was taken from you. You begin to see that their actions were never truly about you. Dot. but were always driven by their desperate attempts at self preservation. You understand that you were someone filled with compassion and emotional depth caught dot in a relationship with a person who could only function on the surface. Now you have the opportunity to redefine yourself. You can move forward knowing that your ability to feel deeply, to love wholeheartedly, and even to experience pain was never a flaw, but a reflection of your humanity. It is the very quality that allows you to build a life filled with genuine connection and emotional richness, something the narcissist may never fully understand. Do not allow their darkness to diminish your light. You have endured, you have grown, and you are prepared to build something better. Hold firmly to that understanding. Continue moving forward, and never forget that your worth was never measured by how they viewed you, but by the courage you have shown in reclaiming your own life. You deserve relationships built on honesty, respect, and authentic love, and now you possess the wisdom to walk away from anything that offers less. Keep believing in yourself, continue growing, and always place your peace and emotional well being above everything else. This is your path, and you alone have the power to shape what comes next. Their regret is really about the damage done to the image they worked so hard to protect. It is regret that their own behavior has placed at risk the one thing they depended on most from you: your attention, your validation, and your emotional energy. A narcissist without a reliable source of admiration is much like a phone without power. They feel themselves running empty. They experience that deep internal void, and they will often do whatever they can to reconnect and regain the emotional fuel they crave. Foundation of trauma bonding. It is the repeated cycle of pain followed by temporary comfort, the constant push and pull that keeps you emotionally unsteady. You keep hoping, keep trying, and keep waiting for the caring version of them that seemed to exist at the beginning of the relationship. But the difficult truth is that the version you first encountered was never their authentic self. The affection, attentiveness, and emotional intensity you experienced early on were part of the image. They needed you to believe so they could secure your attachment. Once they felt confident that you were emotionally invested, once your identity became increasingly tied to their approval, the carefully maintained mask slowly began to fall away. It did not disappear overnight. It faded gradually in ways that left you confused and uncertain. Instead of questioning their behavior, you blamed yourself and worked even harder to earn the affection that kept slipping out of reach. That confusion, that exhausting uncertainty about where you stood, being cherished one day and ignored the next, praised one moment and criticized the following, pulled close only to be pushed away, again, was never random. It served a purpose. Confusion is one of the most effective methods of control. A narcissist who keeps you emotionally uncertain keeps your attention fixed entirely on them, constantly analyzing their moods, trying to understand their behavior, and searching for ways to regain their approval. So, while your energy is consumed by that endless cycle, it is no longer directed toward yourself. You stop focusing on your own needs, your dreams, your boundaries, and the life you deserve. That is exactly where they want your attention to remain. But this is where everything begins to change. The moment you truly understand this, not just intellectually, but deep within yourself, your entire perspective shifts. Suddenly, the question is no longer what you did wrong. The real question becomes what was being done to you. That single change in perspective marks the beginning of genuine freedom. When you stop trying to repair yourself for someone who is never capable of loving you in a healthy way, you begin doing something far more meaningful. You begin discovering who you truly are without them, and what you uncover in that process may surprise you more than anything else. Beneath all the self doubt they planted within you, beneath every moment of questioning yourself, beneath the constant feeling of walking on eggshells and making yourself smaller just to keep them comfortable, the real you is still there. The person you were before they entered your life, the one who felt deeply, dreamed without limits, and loved with an open heart, has never disappeared. That part of you was never destroyed. It was simply buried beneath layers of pain, waiting patiently for you to uncover it again. Recovering from narcissistic abuse is never a straight or predictable path. Do not let anyone convince you otherwise. There will be days when you feel empowered, clear minded, and fully aware of what happened as well as the person you are becoming. Then there will be days when an old song starts playing, a familiar scent fills the air, or someone speaks with a tone that instantly reminds you of them, and suddenly you feel as though you have been pulled back into the past. The confusion returns, the pain resurfaces. You begin questioning everything you believed you had already overcome. Those moments do not mean you are failing. They are simply part of the healing process. They are signs that your nervous system is working through wounds that reached far beneath the surface. Narcissistic abuse does far more than hurt your emotions. It changes the way you experience yourself. It attacks your identity, your sense of reality, and your confidence in your own perceptions. Recovering from that kind of emotional injury requires time, patience, and an incredible amount of compassion toward yourself. Yet there is another truth that deserves equal attention. Every day you choose yourself, every day you resist the temptation to return, and every day you remain present with the discomfort of healing instead of escaping back into familiar pain, you are creating something extraordinary. You are building the most valuable relationship you will ever have, the relationship with yourself. No one can ever take that away from you. That is something the narcissist has never truly experienced. It is the very quality they both admired and secretly resented within you. They envied your ability to have an authentic connection with yourself, to understand your own thoughts, trust your own heart, and experience your emotions without suppressing them, projecting them, or turning them into weapons against others. Your ability to reflect honestly, feel deeply, and love sincerely has always been your greatest strength. Ironically, it is also one of the reasons you became a target. But hidden within that painful reality is something beautiful. If your capacity to love made you vulnerable to manipulation, that same capacity will ultimately become the force that restores you. You already know how to love. You already know how to care. Now you are learning to offer that same compassion to yourself. You are discovering that your love is not something to be taken by people who fail to appreciate it. It is a precious gift, and you alone decide who is worthy of receiving it. Very few people ever fully understand what comes next, and yet it may be the most life changing truth in this entire conversation. Despite all their manipulation, cruelty, and the pain they left behind, the narcissist has unintentionally given you something valuable. It was never done out of kindness, nor was it their intention, but they have shown you with complete clarity what love is not. Once you fully accept that lesson, once you stop mourning only what was lost and begin recognizing everything you have learned, that understanding becomes the inner compass that leads you toward healthier people, healthier relationships, and a healthier future. You will never again mistake emotional intensity for genuine love. You will never confuse jealousy with passion, control with care, or cruelty with emotional depth. You will recognize the difference not only in your thoughts, but in your instincts, in your body, and in the quiet inner voice that always sensed something was wrong, even when hope convinced you to ignore it. That voice will grow stronger now, and you will learn to trust it. This is what surviving narcissistic abuse can do when you choose healing instead of hiding from your pain. It makes you wiser, It sharpens your judgment. It helps you understand your boundaries with a level of clarity that many people spend an entire lifetime searching for. It teaches you through painful experience exactly what you will never again tolerate. Once you know what you are no longer willing to accept, you create room for what you truly deserve. And you deserve far more than what they ever offered you. You deserve a love that never asks you to sacrifice your peace of mind. You deserve relationships where affection is not something you have to earn by abandoning yourself. You deserve honesty, consistency, emotional safety, and a kind of love that helps you become more fully yourself instead of slowly losing who you are. Your story is far from over. In many ways, everything you have endured, as devastating and disorienting as it may have been, could become the very experience that redirected your life towards something far greater. You are moving toward a version of yourself that is stronger, wiser, more grounded, and more alive than ever before. That version of you is already taking shape through every courageous decision you make to face the truth instead of running from it. Before we finish, I want to leave you with one final thought. If these words have spoken to something deep inside you today, and if you recognize your own journey reflected in this message, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Send it to a friend who is still caught in confusion, still trapped in the cycle, and still blaming themselves for another person's inability to love. You may never fully realize how one simple act of compassion could become the turning point that changes someone else's life forever.